Welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves, you guys. Today we are going to talk about the eternal question, which is money or ethics when it comes to marketing and sales. We're going to talk about ethical versus non-ethical marketing. We're going to talk about how you can ethically market. We're going to talk about the things you should and shouldn't do if you want to ethically be marketing. We're going to talk about why it's best for your brand, all that good stuff. So stick around. I'm really excited to kind of chat about this with you guys. Now, this topic actually came up because I was having some conversations with some clients about ethical versus non-ethical marketing and what it is, why it's important, how you can abide by it, all that good stuff. And something that I was kind of talking about is I genuinely feel like for the most part, marketing, sales, those conversations, campaigns are not audited. They're not regulated. And so it's extremely difficult, in my opinion, for consumers to be able to sniff out the BS when marketing is not regulated, when you are not consistently being held accountable for making claims that are true. You're not constantly being held accountable to make sure that you're using language that is representative of the true product or service that you deliver, isn't emphasizing anything that isn't correct. And I genuinely feel like in terms of ethics, it's really like frustrating for me because on the back end of things, a lot of the clients that come to us constantly are telling us, I invested in someone who said they were going to teach me marketing and sales. They had really great marketing themselves. And the really difficult part about that is that, when it came to the actual support or strategies or any of those things, I didn't get the result that I was looking for. And I feel like I was sold something that wasn't an accurate depiction of what I was essentially joining or what I was signing on for. I will see time after time after time, people giving like social proof, and this can be for product or service-based businesses, social proof, results, testimonials, client case studies, things like that, to showcase how incredible their quote unquote work is, product, service, any of those things. And it is, one result or one testimonial or one client case study or one review that is not representative of the actual experience when someone invests in their service or purchases their product. So it's like a standalone review or it's a standalone client case study that again isn't representative. And it's really frustrating for me because there are so many people I see doing this where like I know what the back end of their business looks like. I know like what's going on for them. And I know that their marketing is not an accurate representation of their brand or of their business. And it's really frustrating for me to see that because I know so many people are going to fall victim to that. And so for me, having ethical marketing and being and leading by example in that area, I think is one of the most important things that we can do. Obviously, like I am so excited about the fact that our services help people create an insane amount of sales. I'm very excited about that. But what excites me more is that we do it by still adhering to our values. We're not sellouts. We don't say anything to make a sale because there's absolutely a way to get people to buy from you ethically and with them having all the information, a super informed decision. And to be totally frank, some of the biggest compliments that I ever get are from people who I have had sales conversations with, who have consumed our content, people who have become clients who literally are telling us, thank you so much for how you handled this conversation, for the empathy and the compassion that you gave me. Thank you for not pushing me. Thank you for empowering me with your content and being forthcoming about the results that it creates rather than lying, because your audience will notice the difference. Trust me when I say your audience will feel the difference when they're buying from you, will feel the difference when they see your content, will feel the difference when they come in to your container or they purchase your product and it's exactly what you said it was in your marketing. They will notice. Trust me when I say that. And what's so cool about that, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, like further on in the episode, is that it really does do better for your brand because you build more trust, you build more community, it results in less refunds, more referrals. Like people, when you abide by certain values and you do right by your audience and your clients and your customers, people notice and they want to scream your name from the rooftops. So let's talk about what I consider to be ethical versus non-ethical marketing. And I think when we talk about non-ethical marketing, it's going to become very apparent what is and is not ethical marketing. So I get the question a lot because we talk about sales psychology and buyer types and things like that. How is that not, ethical? Or how is that not non-ethical? How is that ethical? To basically know exactly what gets someone to buy and then to, sell to them in that way so that they do buy from you. Honestly, to me, non-ethical marketing is anytime you have false advertising, misleading claims, hidden fees, exploitation of children, an invasion of privacy, plagiarism, unfair competition, like any of those things. As soon as we start to creep into that territory, immediately to me, it becomes unethical. What I will say about sales psychology, buyer types, is that is not non-ethical because they still have a choice. You can literally say to that person, hey, here's the problem you're facing. In very specific terms, like this is your experience right now. This is the solution that I offer. And because of that, you should buy it because it's going to give you what you want. All we're doing with sales psychology, buyer types, things like that, and this is why, in my opinion, it is still very ethical, is giving people a choice, is giving them a solution, and then they can choose whether they invest in it or not, whether they purchase it or not. In fact, in my opinion, speaking to your audience's experiences more specifically creates a closer connection and trust with you, your brand, your business, and it gets them to buy from you easier. Everyone at their core wants to feel innately understood, wants to feel innately seen. And if you are able to do that in your marketing and in your sales, things become so much easier. It would almost be like if you were going through something really difficult, your best friend knew about it, and they texted you on a day where they knew you were really struggling or you would likely be struggling. And they were like, hey, I'm thinking of you. I hope you're doing well. They see you. They know exactly what you're coming up against. They know exactly what you're struggling with. And they're literally just reaching out to you. You feel seen and understood and heard by that. And because of that gesture, you love them more, you trust them more, you feel impacted by that, right? The same goes for your marketing and for your sales. It's literally just being like, hey, target audience, I see you, I get where you are, I know what you're struggling with, I know what your experiences are, and here's a solution for that, and I'm here for you if you need it. It's as simple as that. And speaking to people's buyer types is almost like speaking to their love language, right? It's really nothing like complex. You're just able to make them feel understood better and communicate the solution that you offer to them in a way that makes sense to them. That's it. So to me, selling that way is not non-ethical. What I will say though, like I mentioned, is like false advertising or misleading claims. These are the two things that I see a lot when it comes to marketing in a non-ethical way. So for example, I think I mentioned this before, but a lot of people when they are marketing will use social proof with no context. So for example, I've seen some wild stuff, you guys. I've seen people make up their own testimonials. I have seen people basically give the product to friends and family who support them and just say, hey, will you write me a review or a testimonial that, that person, number one, didn't pay for that product. And number two, obviously has like a very significant bias. To me, that is not an accurate review. That is not an accurate testimonial. On top of that, I will see people share social proof like, oh, I helped this person, double their revenue in 30 days. And that's all they say, and they don't give any context. And let's say they have people in their audience who are very much like beginner business owners. And what they didn't include in that case study or that piece of social proof was that that person was already creating, 80K per month. They had a massive audience. They already had a marketing strategy, and they came in and made a couple of shifts and changes, and boom, they saw incredible results. But the reality of that is that if you try to say, hey, I can help you double your results in 30 days to anyone at any phase of business, that's not going to be an accurate representation of the results that they're going to see, because someone who's newer in business, somebody who, doesn't have a marketing strategy set up, doesn't have their marketing and sales foundations in place, they don't understand marketing principles and frameworks, it's going to take them longer to see those results because A, marketing and sales is a skill set that you have to develop. And B, on top of that, it takes time to build momentum with your marketing and with your sales to scale your company. And if you've already built that momentum, you can see results much faster. But in order to see results, you have to first build the foundations, build momentum. And so if you're comparing or saying that the results that you create for your audience are these results over here, but it's somebody who has already created that momentum, already had the foundations in place, and saying, oh yeah, I can do this and create this result for you too, person who just started their business and has no idea who their target audience is, no idea who their buyer types are, doesn't have a marketing strategy, isn't posting consistently. Yeah, we can get you results in 30 days. That's not an accurate depiction. So to me, that's where I get really frustrated with social proof. And that's why if you guys ever look at our content, I give so much context when we talk about a client's results. We talk about where they were at when they first came to work with us, how big their audience was, what they were doing well, what they were doing poorly, what their results were like, for their audience size, how easily were they seeing sales, what was going on in their sales process, were they getting a lot of questions and objections? Like, sure, were they getting 50 leads a month? Yes, but were they only converting 5 of them a month? That's information that we're going to include, right? It's like, yeah, they had great lead flow, but their conversion sucked, which means they weren't creating those sales. But for me, if I can fix that converting issue, that means that 50% or higher of those leads, 50 to 70% of those 50 per month are going to actually convert, right? And because of that, they're going to significantly boost their sales because they already had the leads coming in, right? That is like, for example, if somebody didn't have that lead flow and they saw that piece of social proof, it wouldn't resonate with them because they're like, oh yeah, I need to build that first, right? Versus, if I had basically just said, we helped this client, go from closing 5 sales a month to closing, 30, 40 sales a month, that they're like, oh, great. Like, if somebody didn't have the leads, they'd be like, oh, cool. So they helped them generate the leads and close them. No, that person already had the leads, which made my job really easy. Can I help you generate the leads? Yes. But is the result in that same time frame going to be the same? Probably not. And that's where the ethics comes in of giving that context, giving that information so that when people consume your marketing, consume your content, they're given an accurate depiction of what's going on with context. Okay. Another thing that I have seen that is incredibly unethical, and this is marketing and sales, I'll say, is marketing a massive transformation for a product or a service that has no real deliverables. So, and to me, like, again, this should be freaking illegal, and I don't even know if it is, but I have literally seen massive coaches in the online space tell people you have to pay $2,000 per month to be on a wait list to work with me. That $2,000 per month, no matter how long you're on that wait list for, is not going to go towards the total investment that you have to work with me. And when you work with me, I'm basically just letting you be quote unquote in my energy. What? And so these people are basically talking about, I've created billions of dollars in sales, millions of dollars in sales. I have my own private plane. I have my own island. I have this, I have that. And you get to be in my energy. Therefore, you're going to see those same results. But being in their energy, quote unquote, is essentially just you saying, hey, I have this problem. And they're like, you can do it. Watch what I'm doing. Here's my templates. Here's this, masterclass that I created. There's no like custom support. There's no real deliverables. It's literally just like them showing up once a week in Voxer or Slack and being like, yeah, you got this. Sounds like you're doing great. That's you being in their energy. And so to me, when people market a massive transformation or use even like their massive results to market their products or services and basically telling you like you also can see these results, but then as soon as you get into that container or purchase that product, there's really no support. It's literally just like being in their energy is wildly unethical to me. You cannot say you can see this result by being in my energy and give no real tangible support because they're definitely not going to see those results. And then what happens is it's kind of like a mind fuck, right? So the client gets into that container, they don't see any results, they've made this massive investment, and then they get blamed by the coach to say, well, you didn't do what you needed to do. It's like, well, you didn't give them any strategy either. So like, anyway, so story for another day. But to me, that is wildly unethical in terms of marketing. So the question then becomes like, how do you decide what is ethical and what is not when you're marketing your business? So regardless of what industry you are in, the things I always say, like err on the side of caution. Like you don't even want to give any sort of like assumption that you are being unethical. You want to be the person who is so wildly ethical in their marketing that there is like no point at which someone could say like, is that ethical? Is that not, right? Like you want to err on the side of caution. So you want to ask yourself when you're creating content, anytime you are talking about your product or your service, is this like misleading in any way? Could I give more information? You almost don't even want to ask yourself like, am I being ethical? You want to ask yourself, is there a way I could be more ethical in my marketing and in my content? Is there a way I could give more context? Is there a way that I could give more information about this? Is there anywhere where I am hiding information to make things seem better than they are about my product or my service? On top of that, and this is obviously like a different lens that I think everyone needs to decide for themselves if you're a parent, what you're willing to do and what you're not. But I've seen a lot of people who have businesses and their children are like an active participant in their marketing. And that feels weird to me. Like, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of conversations around like family vloggers and things like that. But if you have a business and you're a mom and you're a business owner and your kids are constantly in your marketing, again, like I'm not a parent, so I don't know how I would feel about that. But like if you're making sales because people are seeing your kids in your content over and over and over, and a lot of it is from that, to me, that feels very unethical because then like that's the thing that's roping them in. That's the thing that's creating the sale rather than you marketing your product or your service. On top of that, obviously plagiarism becomes wildly unethical. This to me is where the online space needs to be audited, man. And this is where you need to get yourself a really great attorney. I always remember the quote by Taylor Swift where she was getting, I think it was like the Vogue questions or whatever. And they were like, what's your advice to somebody who wants to be an artist? And she was like, get yourself a really great attorney, get yourself a really great lawyer. And that is very much the case as a business owner, because anytime you build a brand, there will be people that are going to copy you. The amount of times that we have had people rip off not just our content, but like things that we have sold in terms of marketing, our master classes, our like auditing sessions, things like that. People will purchase them and then basically directly replicate them. And that's obviously where it's really important to have an attorney, because you can send them a cease and desist and things like that. But to me, the second that you start copying someone else's content or marketing and using it to market your products or your services, that, in my opinion, like your brand becomes so obsolete. It's not even that it's unethical, because it is, but on top of that, it is such a bad look for your brand, because if you get exposed, which like most of them will, right? Like I don't have the energy to do it anymore, but like we used to expose person after person after person who would copy our content. And I just was like, because these people would say they were marketing and sales experts and then be using other people's content in order to market their services. And I'm like, that's a complete misleading claim, because you can't even market your business, and yet you're telling people that you're going to be able to market and sell for them. Where are we in the world that this is okay, right? So the second that you start to have that come into play as well, that's where it becomes wildly unethical. So we have a team photo shoot at the end of this month, and we were brainstorming like concepts and stuff. And again, this goes back to like erring on the side of caution, and not that this would be plagiarism, but it comes down to like intellectual property and copyright and like copying someone's brand. We have a competitor of ours, and I'm obsessed with her content, and we were brainstorming like an idea for our session, which was like eating spaghetti or whatever. And I was like, we have a competitor that does something similar. It was like she was eating quote unquote spaghetti with like diamond necklaces. And I'm like, that's way too close in terms of her brand. I don't even want it to look like, even though it's completely different, like I don't even want it to look like we're copying that, right? We need to have our own brand. We need it to look like our brand. And that's too close to her. So like, no, we're not going to do that, right? Could it have been a really cool concept for a shoot? Yeah, absolutely. But there's a million and one other concepts for shoots that would make us stand out as a brand and not make it look like we were copying her. So again, it doesn't just come down to like your content, your written captions and things like that. It comes down to the visuals, your brand. It comes down to how you talk about things. Like I'll never forget. It's so wild to me because, again, there are people who are experts who are like using our content. People will copy my TikTok content word for word and be like, yeah, now you should come work with me. And I'm like, that's wild because you can't even market yourself. People will copy all sorts of things and plagiarize. And so to me, that's wildly unethical because you can't even market or sell on your own. Like you are plagiarizing someone else's content to market your services and expecting people to buy from you for your expertise, essentially. So like I said, when you are answering the question of like, how do I know if this is ethical or not? Ask yourself, am I erring on the side of caution? Am I giving more information? Is there anything that's even somewhat close to our competitors in terms of like captions or how we talk about things or the brand or any of those things that we want to err on the side of caution of? So here I want to talk about, to me, like why ethical marketing is so important and why it's actually really beneficial for your brand. So like I talked about, typically people who are not marketing ethically will be like, their true colors will come forward at some point. Their true colors will be shown. There are a lot of people who have gotten canceled in the past for copying content, for using like misleading claims, like social proof and things like that. So I think it's extremely important for you to want what's best, obviously, for your audience. It's like there's a million and one fish in the sea. You can create a ton of sales. You don't have to make stuff up. You don't have to over exaggerate the results that you can create to get people to buy from you. Honestly, to me, if you are not marketing ethically, you don't actually know how to market. That's just my opinion. Because I have never, ever, ever needed to stretch the truth, tell people that I've created a result when I haven't. I have never had to not give context to my social proof or make things look better than they were in order to create a sale, nor have my clients. If you don't know how to market yourself, of course, you're going to feel the need to overcompensate by doing or saying different things that aren't ethical. And that will always come to light. And in my opinion, whether it is someone else exposing you or a client or a customer purchasing and getting into your container or getting your product, and it's nothing like what was marketed to them, they're going to leave a review. They're going to talk about you. They're going to talk about your services. And it's going to become very apparent to your audience and through word of mouth that you are not who you say you are. Your brand is not what you say that it is. Your brand is not what you say that it is, nor are your products and services. Like people talk, you guys, just like when people talk about referrals, when people say like, oh my God, you have to go see this person because they're absolutely incredible. People will also say, make sure you stay away from that person. There have been so many times where someone has said like, yeah, I had this really negative experience with this person. It just wasn't what I thought it was. I could probably name 3 to 5 people that I know exactly who they're talking about, honestly, because I've heard it from way too many people. So you will create a reputation for yourself that might not be the one that you want if you are not ethically marketing. So it's incredibly important that you do that from the get-go. Like, just care about people, you guys. Just do the right thing. It's not hard. And you'll be great. All right. I did want to give an example before we go of a campaign that I found that was something that was very easy to understand. That is a great example of non-ethical marketing. So this campaign was by Olay, the skincare brand, and it was all the way back in 2009. Now, this was in the UK. This wasn't in the United States, but I actually think that this is a great representation of unethical marketing. So it was essentially a ad for under eye cream. It was an ad for like getting rid of wrinkles, right? And essentially what it said was that let me read this correctly. It claimed that the cream eliminated eye lines and made users appear younger, showing a seemingly wrinkle-free 60-year-old model in the ad. And if you guys go search like Olay Definity ad, like unethical marketing ad, it'll come up for you. But what was later found out was that Olay had digitally retouched the model's face to basically have no wrinkles. So if you had created an ad for a wrinkle cream and left the wrinkles on the face, Olay's mindset was probably that, people weren't going to buy the product as much because they didn't feel like it worked. Versus if they saw someone who was older that had no wrinkles, sales would go up, right? But like in our day and age, people like, if you look at a 60-year-old, I'm sorry, she's not going to look like that no matter what skincare you use. You could have the best fillers, Botox, facelift, whatever you want. Skincare, no 60-year-old is going to have no wrinkles. Like look at Kris Jenner when she first got her facelift, right? She was like in her mid 50s, I think. And then after that, like when she was 60, 65, she still has wrinkles, much less. Yeah. And that was a surgery. So it's like, there's really, your audience sees that and there's really no way that they're like, oh yeah, that's how I'm going to look. That's how me as a 60-year-old, that's how I'm going to look if I use a drugstore eye cream, right? On top of that, it probably, number one, sets unrealistic expectations of beauty for a lot of women. And number two, it's going to ruin the trust for Olay and their marketing. So it's like, okay, I know that they're not going to tell me the truth in their marketing, so I need to go talk to someone who's used Olay, like word of mouth. I need to get it straight from the horse's mouth. So what they tried to do to boost their sales, in my opinion, actually massively hurt their sales and was extremely detrimental to their brand because they lost a lot of trust with their audience. And I don't think that they actually did anything in light of the backlash of people saying like, that was digitally retouched, which actually, in my opinion, is that much worse. Like you need to actually say something. Like, for example, a great example of, it wasn't unethical marketing. It was just a very, very bad look was the whole Bumble marketing fumble that happened, or marketing mishap. We already kind of created an episode about that. So if you guys want to go hear more about it, you can. But with Bumble, they put out a series of billboard ads that were targeted towards women, but basically like perpetuated hookup culture, casual dating, and in a world of sexual assault when people casually date, unfortunately, it struck women, wrong, right? So I think it's incredibly important to ethically market there, but they did a great job responding. They had a great apology. So if you ever want to see a really great apology, you can go see that on Bumble's Instagram, actually. So hopefully that gave you guys a really good picture of how to market ethically. And on top of that, what you should and shouldn't do for your brand or your business to build trust with your audience. So if you guys are watching this on socials, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you guys ever have questions about ethical versus non-ethical marketing, slide into my DMs. I'd love to nerd out with you guys about that. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.